Good evening. Thank you for joining me. A little bit tardy on getting started tonight. Thank you for joining me. Tonight, we're not going to be getting into a whole lot of moves, but I do want to have a healthy conversation about contraindications. Tonight is one of 3 nights in a row where I'm going to be nagging you on some fairly common questions. Contraindications fall into that. I'm just going to wait here 2 seconds for those of you that might be joining me for the first time or joining a Lifepro live for the first time. There's about a 2-minute, 20-second to 2-minute delay from what's coming out of my mouth to what may transpire on the other end in Facebook land. If you are joining me, I'm going to invite some questions towards the end of the live. And if you'd like to ask me a question, you can type that in the comments, but please make sure that you're joining me on the main Lifepro page. That's where you're going to, that's the feed that comes through to me. I'm going in now just to make sure we are live. There I am. Perfect. Okay. VIP. Perfect. Okay. So if you've never joined me for a live, typically I'm rambling. I want to get a little closer here to you guys. I don't need to be that far away. Okay, that's better. All right. So contraindications vary. Let's start with that. They're going to vary. Hello, Miss Wilson from Campbell River, British Columbia, Canada. Please let me know if you can see and hear me on your end. Okay, Kimmy. But contraindications are a big question. I get lots about this time of year, and there's lots of new users, and sometimes contraindications are something you're looking into because something's changed in my tree on my wall is bugging me, but it's being blocked there. No, wrong way. So contraindications are going to vary from manufacturer to manufacturer. They're going to vary from trainer to trainer, from company to company. Contraindications vary because there is no absolute black and white defined list. So let's start with that. Just terribly foggy today on my glasses. I was delayed with a large delivery at the front door, and I didn't clean my glasses before, and I want to be able to read what you're saying to me in the next portion of the segment. So contraindications, and if you've watched one of my sessions before, I get a little saucy. I've been doing this a long time, and when I first got into vibration plates about 20 years ago, contraindications, there was some, but it was some common sense stuff more related to activity in general, therapeutic use in general. And over time, vibration plate popularity and understanding has kind of been on this, 5 to 10 year cycle, let's say. And what happens is contraindications, the list grows and changes, and sometimes contraindications change for you personally. So let's first talk about what a contraindication is related to vibration plates. So a contraindication would be an indication. I always make fun of this point. A contraindication, see my visual aids, is not a Contra-Don't. It's not a contra, you can't do this, you're not allowed to. It is an indication to seek further clarity. And in my own personal vibration plate lives, I always say if you have a contraindication on a list, on my list, it doesn't mean that you can't use a vibration plate. Part of an understanding with vibration plates is knowing how to use it, and more importantly, how to maybe modify if you are dealing with a contraindication. It's very, very rare that there isn't a way that I've been able to work with a customer to navigate maybe changing positions, changing the settings, the durations. In the clinical terms, we would talk about things like dosage, how often you're using something, what the appropriate settings are, and no different in an exercise environment. So contraindications, if you have one, you've probably already had a discussion with your doctor about activities and therapies and what may or may not be appropriate for you. And that's what a contraindication is. So let's start with the only indication on my list. The only thing I want to not necessarily have a hard stop you can't use, but I do want to discuss further before you proceed long term. And the only contraindication, which on my list is going to be very different than Lifepro's, because I specialize in these all day long, and I have a different set of skills and experience working, especially with chronic conditions. Lifepro is an awesome company that sells vibration plates and supports your use, but they are not there to help you with intricate nuances related to specific fitness goals or specific medical use. That's something you should have a discussion first with your doctor, therapist, or trainer. So the only contraindication I'm really concerned about is if you are at high risk or you are dealing now with known blood clots. Not because vibration plates necessarily, it's not as simple as saying, it's going to aggravate it or it's going to make the clot move or even cause. It's more about how you use the plate. And if you are dealing with known blood clots, or you're dealing with a situation where you're high risk, and it's not a condition specific thing. There's lots of different conditions where blood clots, DVT, these types of terms are prominent because it's related to the type of condition you're dealing with. So maybe you're on blood thinners, things like that. So if you are dealing with a blood clot, you have probably been advised by your doctor, your care provider, to choose low impact or moderate activity. I've never in my 20 years of working with whether it's fitness or medical users have I ever heard anyone been told, don't move, don't do anything at all. You're usually advised, take some walking, perhaps do some rebounding, maybe some light weight lifting, going to the gym, walking on the treadmill. You're usually, suggested to do, low impact, light intensity activity. And a vibration plate can be ultra low impact and ultra low intensity, depending on how you yourself position your body on the plate. And the biggest modification that people just never think about when you're talking with your doctor, or maybe you've got a blood clot right now and you go running to your doctor or your cardiologist or whoever you may be having this conversation with and say, can I use a vibration plate? Most people think a vibration plate is something you just stand on for 10 minutes and shake away. And the fear when you're dealing with something like blood clots or anyone that shouldn't be doing, high intensity or long duration exercise is a vibration plate has huge capacity to move volumes of circulation and lymphatic fluid. That's the reason many of you are using it. But if you are at risk of blood clots, or dealing with one now, it doesn't mean you can't use a plate. It's a matter of what level of activity is appropriate for you. The plate is just a tool that helps you with being active. So for example, maybe using it for a minute with a lower intensity, bringing those feet a little bit closer. Day 3 on Thursday night, I'm going to get into some of the modifications specifically when you're dealing with a lot of the things on the discussion board tonight. So tonight is about contraindications. Tomorrow is common new user questions. And Thursday is going to be a discussion about medical and chronic use related ideas. So tomorrow and Thursday night, I will be on a machine. But tonight, I just wanted to get through. There's so many nuances in medical conditions and the symptoms you might be dealing with. I wanted to just make sure we had a healthy amount of time for questions. So if you are dealing with an active blood clot and your doctor does not know anything about vibration plate, it's easier to have that conversation. Doctors, therapists, PTs, they can't know every tool out there on the planet. They're not all experts in treadmills and rebounders, let alone vibration plates. So commonly, in the responsible answer, if they're not familiar with the technology, is to say no, because they don't know what they're advising is okay or not okay. Hey, Diane from Saskatchewan, nice to meet you. I am about an hour north of Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And if you're at high risk of blood clot, you really haven't had any issues, Maybe it's things like venous insufficiency. You've got really, really bad varicose veins. A lot of it is more about common sense. So if you're dealing with anything sluggish blood related, blood clots, those types of things, be conservative on your time and your intensity. Use it for a little bit more often. Manage those symptoms, boost the fatigue, those types of things. Help the circulation improve, but give the body time to get used to the increase in flow. And that's the real risk when it comes not just to vibration plates, but with activity in general, saunas, anything that elevates your heart rate and your blood flow is something you need to perhaps modify in your approach if you're dealing with those types of conditions. So let's move on to some fuzzier topics and more common topics. So there's really no condition on the face of the earth that would not allow you from using a vibration plate if you understand that it's not a matter of just stepping on the thing with your feet wide and going 10 minutes. You're not dealing with average population bodies. So if you do have known health issues, contraindications can vary from things to like inflammation, kidney stones, gallstones, recent injuries, recent wounds. There's all kinds of things on this list. And again, hi Dave, nice to see you. I hope you're doing well. We had a little skiff of snow today in our neck of the woods. But if you are dealing with a contraindication, it's a matter of that you can and probably should be active. The plate is just a tool to help you be active. So do yourself a favor and use some common sense in applying the tool. Less time, more often. Where it becomes a little challenging is if you're an existing user. So you're an existing user, you've been using it, doing your workouts, and all of a sudden, you go in for surgery or you have an injury where, you're not supposed to be doing exercise regularly, or you're supposed to do low intensity or low impact activity. Well, this is where instead of using the vibration plate as you have been, it's maybe just a matter of modifying, changing what you're doing to more like a recovery, wellness, healing mode than doing your squats, your push-ups, those type of things. I had a gal yesterday, and I commend people when you find yourself in a situation where you've overdone it on a vibration plate. I'm proud of you because you've tried and you've put your effort forth, but sometimes we take on more than we're ready for. And that happens very commonly when you're dealing with contraindications. You have that all of a sudden, if it's a new health issue, you're mindful, you gotta get active, I gotta start eating right, but we do tend to overdo it. So if you're a new user, if you're dealing with a chronic issue of any kind, that is a contraindication. Have the discussion first with your doctor or care provider. Is it appropriate for me to be active, and to what degree? So let's splice that a little further. There may be terminology like weight-bearing use versus non-weight-bearing use. So maybe you've just had a hip replacement. No, you probably shouldn't be, jumping and doing squats and going for a run a day or two after surgery. That seems logical to us. But when it comes to our vibration plates, especially if you're an existing user, you kind of miss it. You want to get back to using it because it makes you feel better. But it's key that you modify, so sometimes you got to get creative. Maybe you could sit and reduce the amount of body weight, less weight bearing, just exposing the legs, the feet. A lot of times when you are recovering from something, you're spending more time sitting and you just get stiff and sore. But the increase in circulation and lymph in a modest, softer way is also going to help expedite recovery, improve the situation that you're in. So it's a matter of just changing gears in how you have been using it to how you may use it now or for a period of time. And for chronic users, I see it all the time where they're so fearful, I can't use a vibration plate because I have kidney stones. Another conversation I had this morning. Well, if you haven't passed one recently and you're not feeling symptoms, you're still walking, you're still doing your day-to-day. But if your day-to-day activities are starting to present pain and additional movement, or the gym starting to hurt, you should modify your activities. Same goes on the vibration plate. So it's not that you can't use a vibration plate. If you have a kidney stone, a gallstone, an implant of any kind. I don't care if it's a joint replacement, a new tooth, a hearing implant. All of these different medical procedures and treatments have a period of recovery time, and you should adhere to your recovery time, but you are always given exercises or stretches or things that you're supposed to be doing at home to aid in your recovery. Again, I stress a vibration plate is just a device that helps you do the moves, do the stretches, whatever the exercises are. A vibration plate is a tool that can help you expedite recovery in a non-weight bearing situation until you're ready to progress to weight bearing situations. And again, tomorrow night and Thursday, when I'll get more into settings and what feels better, there's ways to modify not only your position, but logically, less time. Maybe you're doing a couple of things for a couple of minutes and thinking more symptom management for a period of time. And I've got users that have been using plates for decades, and some do fitness, some are using it for just symptom management stuff, some are doing it for feel good. Sometimes that changes. You're not committed to how you use a plate as far as exercise or being creative that way. The same goes in the contraindication situation. So the contraindications, I've got to stress, there's lots of lists out there, and I'm not going to spend hours going through Lifepro's because, guys, they got to cover their ass. They're not out there being your care provider. They're not intimate with your health situation, and they're not experts on using plates for medical situations. So you should lean on people like myself that have more expertise. Roseanne and Amber have done a number of sessions with medical specific or chronic type issues. And of course, if your doctor or your therapist is not versed, again, the conversation isn't so much about, can I use a vibration plate? It's, can I be active? What things should I be doing? And also very important, what things should I not be doing? Covering off maybe high impact. Sometimes if you've had spinal surgeries or fusions, there's certain stretches that you're recommended to avoid, certain types of massage techniques or tools. So adhere to those things, but a vibration plate is just an environment that reduces the time and impact on floor-based exercises. So when you're ready to progress back to those things, you can use the same tool. But one thing I do want to stress with contraindications, if you're not a regular doctor person or you haven't had any health issues in the past, if you consider yourself in fairly good health, still be conservative starting out, not necessarily because you may have something under the surface that you're unaware of, but it's a new activity or a new therapy. And regardless of your current level of conditioning, it takes the body a little bit of time just to get used to the new stimulus. So it's easy to overdo it, whether you have a contraindication or not. Other things that I will touch on very, very briefly, if, bottom line contraindications, I really would love you guys to think more, instead of it being contraindication, it's active. Can I be active? Are there restrictions on my activity? Are there things I should or should not be doing? That's a more fluid conversation. Because then when you come to me to the group and say, hey, can I use it after a knee replacement? I'll say, well, when was the knee replacement? Was there any complications? How long has it been? Were you active before? There's too many variables because you're all very individual. So even if we were talking, let's say something specific, I've already mentioned kidney stones, the severity of the symptoms, the body that they are in is completely all over the place as far as the spectrum goes. You're all still very individual, and how you use the plate is more about your own comfort, ability, and the dosage, the time, the setting, the positions is really best guided by your doctor or care provider. And I can help translate the settings and those type of things on the plate, but it is a great way to reduce it. I'm going to move along here and see who's with me today. So thank you for joining me. I want to get into some questions. What I will do at the end of today's live, if you do want to see Lifepro's specific contraindications, of course they are on Lifepro's website, but I'm going to post my own. I've got a little short video that gets a little bit saucy. But again, I have a very different experience base in the medical world, supporting a lot of awesome professionals using the plates. And it's like any tool out there, whether it's a treadmill, weights, that if you're just starting out with activity, there's a little bit of customization and understanding what your individual needs are. And sometimes following the book isn't the best approach. Hello again, Miss Kim. Hello, Diane again from Saskatchewan, and Dave from Calgary. Hello, Joan from Wisconsin. Nice to see you. Hello, Miss Vicky. You're pretty consistent, girl. Using the plate when having a panic attack, during a panic attack. That's a good one to bring up. So let's get out of the physical stuff and let's get into the mental health stuff. I'm not sure if my little friend Rachel's watching this evening, but I have had vibration plates, and I'll be very transparent here for those of you that deal with panic attacks and anxiety and stress disorders. Forget vibration plates, can be a very calming, relaxing tool to help mitigate, how tight the fascia is and get the blood flowing. And there's a lot of things we won't get into today, but many of my past users feel like they've had a panic attack on a vibration plate, and sometimes you don't know what's happening, and it's more you fighting in your body, guarding and protecting, because this is something new, this is a change. With proper guidance and modified use, reducing the intensity, learning how to use a plate in a therapeutic versus exercise way can long term be a very soothing, very calming tool to the central nervous system. If you've watched any of my sessions, I often say that a vibration plate better prepares the neurological system for whatever you're doing next. It kind of primes it, it preps it, it makes it ready. So sometimes what you're experiencing when you're on a vibration plate, if you are prone to anxiety, these types of symptoms, try and just breathe. Focus on something other than the equation going on, and I'll get into some examples of how to modify the intensity tomorrow in my standing positions. But short time, short intensity, and breathe. Focus on the breathing. Make sure that you're not guarding and protecting. A lot of times when you have anxiety or you're stressing out on the machine, without even realizing, we go, we stop breathing. It's kind of our body's back door to make us quit what we're doing and focus on something else by depleting our oxygen or something. But it's really, I see it in my core exercise groups too, but it's very, very common when you're having a panic attack or an anxiety attack, to go to that place. And what I hope you find, like many of my, and this is a session idea, ding, ding, ding. I'm pretty sure Amber's done some on this, perhaps Rosanna as well. But there's lots of ways that I work with my pediatric users. I have a special needs, primarily cerebral palsy group, where this is a common thing, not just for the children that I deal with, but a lot of the families. There's a lot of stress when you're dealing with special needs, not just physically, but mentally, what it can do to a household. And if I think of my own personal stress situations over the last 20 years, I always find the memory ends in a good way. And I'm sitting on a vibration plate. It's my everything. It's not just my physical tool. It's my Prozac, literally. I know I'm not supposed to talk about meds on Facebook, but hardest day of my life was when my dad died, and my daughter was 2 days old, and it wasn't the hardest day, but it was just a week, let's put it that way. And I'm having the postpartum crap going on, and I'm trying to nurse this baby, and I'm in a different hospital than my dad. And I remember after my dad passed, I left the hospital and I went home to have lunch. It was just one of those times. And I got in the car and I grabbed my daughter and I ran down to the studio and I sat on the machine and bawled my face off for half an hour while nursing. I let it all out. And many of my toughest days ended in a positive way just by spending a couple of minutes on it. So that's my personal experience. You're not going to find a lot of study and science out there, those types, getting better by being physically active isn't something that research throws a lot of money at. It's got to be a medication. So a vibration plate isn't a treatment or a medication or something that you do 10 times a week or 10 minutes 3 times a week. That's marketing. It's whatever you experiment and learn it to be for your own personal situation. And it's great you brought that up, Vicky, because when you're dealing with a contraindication or you have a chronic issue, sometimes you tend to have a little bit more resistance in the mental health department, because you're pissed off and frustrated and depressed, and there's just all kinds of associated things that come with it. So stop beating yourself up if you can't do the squats and the push-ups, even if you're just sitting on a stool with your feet on the plate, helping that neuropathy, the cold feet, just feeling something really sometimes does lift the spirits. I hope that helps. Went off on a tangent. It's been a month. For those of you that have watched a few of my recent lives, you would know. Thanks for bringing that up, Vicky. I appreciate that. Cindy, she's new here. She's used her for 4 days. Good for you. Easy to overdo it. 10 minutes. A lot of people, when you're doing the research on these machines, they know it accelerates what you do on the floor. You get on it for 10 minutes, going max time, feet wide. I encourage you to look at some of the links that I drop in the group regularly. Less is more. And if you are dealing with chronic issues, symptoms of any kind, it's always more beneficial to use it more often in shorter, more frequent sessions, on a symptom management mentality, spot treatments, think like that. I hope that makes sense. Sylvia asks if it can be used for weight loss. It absolutely can be used for weight loss, but I'm not going to lie to you guys. There's a lot of marketing out there, and there's a lot of people in the group that will say, "Oh no, Deb, you don't know what you're talking about." You can just stand there, moving some lymph and circulation. You're going to get some benefit. I've seen people lose tremendous amounts of weight. But weight isn't defined. Is it fat you're losing? Is it fluid? Is it food? There's lots of different ways the scale can move. It doesn't necessarily mean it's the goals that you're trying to accomplish. So squats, I like to keep it simple. I am not a gym go exercise queen like Roseanne and Amber are. I'm a very busy mom that spends 10 to 12 hours a day helping people on vibration plates. And for me personally, I'm getting close to mid 50s this year. I was a bigger girl when I got into this. And part of the reason I got into this 20 years ago is I had a bad knee and probably a bit of a bad attitude, but I had to drop a whole bunch of weight before I could get a knee replacement. So I ate more and had a pity party for about a year. But at my biggest, I was probably just under $195, pushing 200. I walk around more like $120, 25 these days, depending on how much muscle I decide to put on. But it's one move, and it's being consistent that has not only lost the weight for me, but kept it off. And that's my squats. Early in the day, if you can go 2 to 3 minutes, a squat that's mean for you, engaging those big muscle groups. For those of you that are exercise gurus or want a longer routine, you can certainly do other exercises, but it's positions that burn the calories, and doing them consistently that really is going to help with the weight loss. If you're dealing with any conditions or deficiencies that are getting in the way of doing things like squats, there are other ways, adding weights to your positions. But I think you'll find if you're using your vibration plate regularly, things like bad knees and bad hips and bad ankles, and sometimes balance and other things that come into the equation of being able to do a mean squat, whatever that looks like for you, improves. So just start moving and feeling better. Give yourself a couple of weeks if you're a new user to get used to how you feel, what you like, what you don't like. A lot of people want, what's best for weight loss, and what does P2 do, and what does Speed 30 do? And really, just like going to the gym and doing weights or running on a treadmill, it doesn't matter what has been researched, because only this much of it has been researched out of this much in the variables. It's really more important that you establish what kind of feels good for you, what your tolerance is. The two basics in oscillating movement I'll get into tomorrow, and but my approach tends to cater more to unconditioned users, chronic users. I hate to say it, but in many ways that's the majority nowadays. We have to exercise for purpose, right? But if you are dealing with chronic issues, your options when you have a situation where you want to be or should be active, you can't just go do anything. So a vibration plate can be a viable tool for weight loss. And a lot of my folks that, can't do those traditional cardio or gym activities find it sometimes is the only thing they can tolerate. So lots of ways that you can be successful with it, but keep it simple and consistent. Hello, Sue. Sue, you know who. Love the name. Can someone use a vibration plate to help with tendinopathy in low back, hip, and glutes? You can. Again, think more therapeutic than workout. I don't know if there's any stretches or things that you should be doing now. Those done on a plate and sort of targeting the stimulus, the resonance that you feel when you're standing on the machine. You can target those areas in what I would call a standing low back position. I'll get into that tomorrow night. But when you're dealing with inflammation, tendinopathy, anything that is, potentially painful, you're dealing with inflammation. So you want to make sure the first thing you do is bring those feet closer to the center. If you're an existing user, you're going to be way more willing to try this kind of stuff because you know how it can make you feel better and you probably miss it. If you are a brand new user, Sue, there's some newbie stuff you kind of want to understand. You don't want to just go in and, there's no setting for tendinopathy of the hips. A lot of people may tell you otherwise, but it's taking your whole structure, your tolerance, maybe some other issues that you meet if there's injuries, past surgeries. But typically just standing in a way where you're almost standing upright and unhinging at the hips, and you'll drive that stimulation there. It acts like a bit of a massage. And with something like that, where symptoms kind of increase and decrease throughout the day, I'm 54 and I'm having those hip pains and that low back issue. So mostly on the right side, which is my strong side, compensating for the bad knee that I never had done. But, I find if I get a little movement, a little blood flow in that area, it certainly reduces it substantially as things come and go because I'm lifting or sitting too much or doing what I'm doing throughout the day. Just a minute or two to hit it and get some relief in there is an awesome way to use it. So if it kind of boils down to whether you're an experienced user or not, because you either have the confidence to try these things or you don't. So if you're a new user and this is why you bought it, sit yourself in a chair, get the feet on it, and just kind of get a feel for it before you try doing anything routine specific. And look up on this channel as well on YouTube more primarily. Lives are now only on the page for 30 days. So take a look on Lifepro's YouTube channel and look. Roseanne just did a series in just before Christmas on her own hip replacement. And even though they were exercises she was using to recover for her hip replacement, a lot of those type of exercises would be equally applicable for the tendinopathy. So things that target those areas, the vibration plates just offering some stimulus to reduce the time that you have to do the home therapy exercises, or can act as a massage. 1 to 2 minutes is probably all you need. I hope that helps. Carol, hello. And I will get into more exercise positions in the next 2 evenings. Carol says, can I lay my shoulder on it? Having a little trouble with my bicep and deltoid from playing pickleball. That a girl, especially in this cold weather. I wouldn't lay the shoulder specifically on it, but there absolutely are ways to target that area. If range of motion allows, and I'll get into this, like I said, again, tomorrow night, get down on the machine on your knees, like you're getting ready to do a push-up, but you're not going to go to your toes. Bring the hands closer. Wide is more. Shake. More isn't better. It's more impact. Bring those hands dead center. And just like, hang on, I'm trying to do this as a visual. What everybody does when they put their hands on the plate, a push-up can be equally therapeutic. You're just getting those areas more directly in contact with the movement versus trying to do it in the standing position. So we line up and we're looking at our hands. And if your head is looking at your hands while you're on the plate, you're going to get the most head vibe. Push your body forward so that you're kind of looking past the hands and the shoulders are above the hands. And you're going to feel the vibration move from your head to your neck to your shoulders. And I would bring it up in speed a little bit. Slow and choppy, anything chronic it's like being on a Bosu ball. Slow is not the way to go. It's not the way to go. But there's not one thing. It's not just speed, guys. It's amplitude, intensity, how far apart or how close the hands are. You'll never get up to those high speeds if you've got shoulder issues and your hands are out here. So get on the knees to support the weight, bring the hands dead center, and just make sure that your shoulders are above, and you'll feel it in the neck and shoulders. And you can do like, shoulder rolls or neck, whatever you might be doing now to get relief. I think you'll enjoy, it's going to activate more muscles than, you can massage, but it's it's going to be better if you engage the muscles and use the resonance and do them in a structured massage, if I were to call it anything. And it's going to be better for the range of motion and the head shake and everything else. I hope that makes sense. If you look up, and I might drop this later on, I've done a couple of upper body feel good and fitness sessions where I show that. But the real key with upper body is getting those hands closer. Take the body weight out of the equation until you get used to how it feels. Don't make it the hardest push-up you've ever done if you've never done one in 10 years. Bring the hands closer and line those up with the shoulders above the hands. It'll be a completely different experience. And bring it up about a third of the way in manual speed, or use a mid program. Get it going a little faster. In oscillating, anything you do can be done in any movement style, but oscillating is really what vibration plates are about. Everything else is just noise that came in after the fact. I'll have that conversation another day with anyone who'd like to. And I've done several sessions. But oscillating is what most of you have capability as well in your machines. Let me see what else here now. Sylvia says, I get very itchy and uncomfortable when I use it. It has been the only thing stopping me from using it. Not uncommon. And again, when you say using it, what does that mean? So you're probably going longer than you should with wide intensity. And what happens to not everybody, but it's very common, as you increase circulation and lymph and detoxification ramps up, and there's all kinds of things that happen as your body starts moving. An itch or a tingle, pins and needles is very, very common. And we often make it worse because we're going too long starting out. If it is like super, super severe, there are conditions, underlying conditions many are not aware of. For those of you that have it, you know where I'm going with this. MCAS. There's a condition called mast cell activation syndrome. It's not uncommon, but most people, I would say most people aren't aware that they have it until this symptom presents. And because of it's not specific to vibration plates, it's an activity thing. So what your body does when you have MCAS is it pre-releases histamines, and you have like this allergic reaction feeling, and it can be very severe, red blotchy skin, even hive-like look for people that have this very, very severely. Activity, new activity, increased activity, high intensity activity can spark this of any kind. It's not just, again, a vibration plate thing, but because a vibration plate increases the effects of activity, it's going to happen quicker. So try backing off if you have severe itch in your foot position. So get more realistically hip width apart. Don't stand out on the wider edges. If you have a combo model, don't add more to the equation. Learn the basics in oscillating first. There's more to learn, and I'll get into more to learn, but more you can do with it in the long run. More function, more ways that you can adapt it to be comfortable. But you're either going too long, too wide with your feet, or if you're just using it in short doses and you're using it moderately, you may be dealing with MCAS. So that's something to look into and talk to your care provider about. But it's usually 99% of the time you're just overdoing it. If it is itchy, it generally dissipates with regular use after a week or two. So as long as you're sticking with it, even if it's just a couple of minutes, maybe breaking it into 3 or 4 smaller sessions, after a week or two, you'll notice that the itch dissipates. I'm also going to point out the itch returns. So for those of you, yes, you know what I'm talking about. If you've been using the plate for a long time and you experience the itch when starting out, and again, not everyone does, but for those that do, and then you take a big break, you go on holidays or you just stop using it, and then you get back on it, the itch returns. It also surfaces sometimes in areas that maybe you haven't directly put in contact with the plate. So if you're getting down and massaging the calves or doing a push-up, just a warning there, you may notice the itch in different areas because you're activating those muscles more directly. Same effect, different body part. Lisa says she is from Iowa. Hello, nice to see you. She has arthritic. Why isn't my mouse working? My mouse is being griefy. There. She has arthritic knees and have been using a plate for about 4 weeks, and knees are getting stronger and have been walking about 2 miles a day on the treadmill. That's awesome. Good for you, Lisa. You're not over. Usually when I start reading, I have bad knees. It's like going there. Oh, my knees hurt. The number one thing people do on a machine is overdo it. Too much time, too wide of feet. And it's just 10 minutes, but it's too much starting out for most people. So good for you. You're not having issues. There's all kinds of different ways that I use a plate, not only to strengthen my knee, but to massage it and feel good. I'll drop my upper body session, as well as I did a session called Good News for Bad Knees. There's ways you can massage your knee using a pool noodle. I've done that a couple times. But I think what you'll find if you do have knee issues, excuse me, that it's a great thing if you're combining or are doing new activities, which many of you are this time of year. But yeah, using it before and after the walk for a minute or two, even if that's in addition to your the workout that you're doing on the plate, is a great way to warm the muscles up, make those knees and all the other joints more fluid, reduce injury, and it's a great way to boost recovery and those other things. So good for you. If you have overdone it, you're probably going to feel a little sore, perhaps a little lethargic. A vibration plate, because of the turbo boost of lymph and circulation, which is ever present when you're using it, you're kind of doing the recovery while you're using it. So if you are dealing with a contraindication and other things hurt, but the vibration plate didn't as much, please don't think that you're not doing it right or enough. It's not supposed to hurt as much. So that's another reason it is kind of an ideal tool if you're dealing with, a deficiency or something that you need to modify. Sue says, I am a new user and I have lots to learn. Thank you. Keep it simple and consistent. Use your own creativity and your own imagination. It's great to exchange ideas online, but anyone that's trying to give you definitive, use this or do that, or this is bad, there is no exact book to being active. There's no perfect recipe. There's lots of different exercise modalities. There's lots of exercise tools. A vibration plate, and yeah, I'm biased. I've been doing this for 20 years. But for me, I've never stuck with anything this consistently in my life. For me, it was the tool that gave me the exercise and the recovery, and it could be my therapist. But I've been doing this 20 years. So how you use a plate takes a little bit of time and experimenting. And I just invite you all to stay curious. Play within your own range of motion. You are only limited by your imagination and your range of motion. And if you do have contraindications or concerns, and maybe you're watching this on a recorded basis and it's something that you maybe didn't understand or weren't clear on, please feel free to drop me a question as well. Sometimes I talk too much and the head gets spinning. Cindy says she has been playing around with speed and body placement. Love the calves on the plate for the last minute or two. That a girl. If you're laying down on the ground for that calf massage, Cindy, try lifting the bum up off the ground. It gets more body weight into it, and you can like roll your feet like windshield wipers and get all different areas. I love massaging my calves. If you have shin issues, lay a couple of yoga mats down and kneel on it. Get the kneecaps just off, and then you're getting the full meal deal. I like that when I try to trick myself into believing that my varicose veins are going away. And I don't think that a vibration plate erases any deficiencies that were existent, but they certainly do improve them. And I notice when I'm not regular with my calf massaging, because my varicose veins, they start looking worse. That's just my own. You still got to do your squats and the work, but I find, especially in summer, which is when we tend to be looking at our legs and we're more mindful, but I tend to do more massage in the summer because I start looking at my lumps and my bumps on my legs and go, oh, I haven't been doing my massage. Lindine, I love the name, says, hi, I just purchased mine and can't wait to try it. Thank you for all the information. I will drop a couple of videos in here about getting started. Tomorrow night's going to be more common user questions. And because that relates to some positions, I'm going to be on the machine tomorrow night. And Thursday night, I'm going to be more specific about medical use. What are some of the things? Okay, so I have a contraindication and you're telling me I'm probably okay. And my doctor says I'm okay, but where do I start? The fear is different. The confidence is different. So I want to give you 3, maybe 4 very simple moves that you can use as a starting point. Doesn't matter what the medical condition is, there's always a way we can modify to tailor for what you're dealing with. So bring your questions for that specifically. I have a very short 6-minute getting started video that suits every user out there. Doesn't matter with what you're dealing with. I start seated on a stool and progress to standing. I will drop that in the feed after as well. Lindine says, Sending tropical vibes from Guam. I wish I'm in Canada where it snowed today. Guam sounds good right about now. I would like to invite each of you to simplify things. There is no one way to use a vibration plate. Skip the manual. Watch my guidance. Most of you are dealing with something or are coming from a place of inactivity. Either way, most of you joining me lately have been new users, and I commend you for seeking better information. Again, there is no one way to use a plate. The best way to use a vibration plate is the way that you're going to find yourself using it most consistently. So it's important that you derive your level of comfort and make sure that you're aligning with the goals if there's certain things you're trying to accomplish, but use it often for the feel good, the symptom management stuff. It's the fitness that's a little bit harder, and I got to kick your ass a little bit once in a while. So by keeping it simple and just focusing on good positions, it tends to help with the consistency piece a little bit more. Hello, Deb. Deb says, thank you for all you do. You've given me a lot of new insights to the vibration plate as a beginner, and I'm using it consistently and seeing progress. Good for you. Consistency is the key. And sometimes we get especially as women, we make this so much more complicated. We check with the doctor, we check with our friends, we check with the girls in the group. We're looking for that. I don't know what we're looking for. We get indecisive sometimes as we get older. And what I personally feel it is, most of us are not coming from an exercise background. You're not an exercise guru. You wouldn't know what a weight loss program is from a spine program. And we feel that we need that cookie cutter map that tells us what to do. But I assure you, if you're fearful in any way, if you've made this so complicated and overwhelming that you just don't even want to take it out of the box, please take it out of the box and join me before tomorrow night and just sit on a stool, bar height stool if you have it, but a regular chair will do, and just start playing around and see how it feels. And I assure you, it's not going to be as scary as you think. And the sooner you get started, the sooner you're going to start moving and feeling better. So if there's no more questions, I'll give it a couple more seconds. If you're trying to send me a question and you've joined me partway through, please make sure that you're on the main Lifepro page. Again, we talked very briefly about contraindications today. I did not get into a lot of details because I'm honestly, after 20 years, I'm so sick of defining things. It's activity. It's a way to be active. And if you haven't had a discussion with your doctor about being active and you're dealing with a contraindication of any kind, your doctor, your care provider is absolutely the best person to guide you on what your activity levels should or should not be. A plate is where Amber, Roseanne, and myself come in as the translators in how you use this tool appropriately for the goals you need to align with, whether that's therapeutic or fitness. So again, it's really hard for me to say there's nobody that can't use a vibration plate once you understand how to use the vibration plate. So I hope that gives you some comfort. Linda Ann says, most of my concerns was the itching, but I did read that to take it slow and allow your body to adjust. So take it slow, not in speed. Be conservative. So less time, more often, and bring those feet closer together. It's long durations and lots of intensity. I think you'll find if you get going a little faster, and it's less choppy, that skin's not flopping around as much, that adds to the itch. So bring the feet closer, crank it up about a third of the way, maybe even mid-speed, and do it for less time. You're moving more, but less time. And I think you'll find it more uplifting, more energizing, more grounding. It's going to lift your spirits, body and mind, guys. So try that out. And tomorrow night, 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 4 Pacific again. Allison has asked, if you've just joined, Allison, there is no best speed conversations in my world. I want you to think logically. For lymphatic drainage, when you move, lymph moves. So in theory, any movement on a vibration plate is best. What I would suggest you watch is my getting started video, which I will drop in the comments here after the live wraps up. But that's marketing. Anybody that says it's the best speed for this, that, or anything is just trying to deter because they don't really know what they're talking about, quite frankly. If you're dealing with lymphatic issues, Allison, I also caution you to not overdo it. Compromised lymphatic systems and circulatory systems may or may not be able to handle the increase in flow. So if you're hopping on for 10 minutes max settings, you're probably going to move more fluid than your body's prepared to handle. So you're going to be up all night peeing. You're going to have intermittent swelling in new or different areas. If you've got blockages, known blockages for sure, you should be doing some prep work as well, getting those pathways prepared for the increase in flow, but be conservative on time intensity if you've got compromised lymphatic issues in any way, shape, or form. I have a very large group that caters to lipedema, lymphedema, Derkham's disease, all very nasty lymphatic related issues. And the symptoms are very well alleviated by using a vibration plate. It's a very popular and ever growing in popularity tool. A lot of people seek it for the lymphatic drainage capacities, but it's also a very, very viable exercise tool. When you have lymphedema, lipedema, these conditions, you tend to have hypermobility, poor circulation, and lymphatic issues. You bruise easily. Sometimes those traditional activities just aren't as kind, and a vibration plate is a great exercise, but that's in addition to, above and beyond, the wonderful things it can do as a therapeutic and wellness tool just to manage your symptoms. So I hope that makes sense. Linda says she has a family member that's interested and she's diabetic and suffers with neuropathy. Well, it's not a matter of a vibration plate's good for neuropathy. Is activity good for neuropathy? Of course it is. I'm sure they're nagging her about that already. Most of my diabetics, and I have many of them, many more than I'd like, 1 in 9 Americans, you need to move. You know, that's part of the reason that sometimes neuropathy gets worse is due to a lack of activity. A vibration plate can, because it does activate and stimulates the central nervous system. Yes, by logic, there's going to be an improvement in anything nerve or central nervous system, you know, that the channels, you know, very common in the feet, but it can happen in the hands. It can happen anywhere in the body if there's trauma to the nervous system. So yes, it can be a viable tool, but there's 2 ways it helps with things like neuropathy, anything related. Let's say I'm going to assume the feet, drop foot, some of these conditions, the increase in circulation and blood flow, of course, but it becomes a viable activity that you can do often. A lot of times when you're dealing with neuropathy, some of the other associated symptoms are things like, you know, poor balance and stability goes out the window because the feeling in your feet's kind of screwed up, right? So because the sensation's improving, the balance, all those other things, and the plate that's ever challenging you in this environment while it's working on the feet is also going to give you a boost on that balance, stability, stamina, those types of things. I hope that makes sense. Deborah Bryant, long time no see, girl. Hope you're doing well. Great to see you as always. Linda also says, will this video be available when you end the live? I'd love to share this video with her. Absolutely. And any condition that you guys can possibly think of, I've probably done at least 2, if not 3 sessions in the time that I've been here. So never hesitate to search on Lifepro's YouTube channel, Debbie Neuropathy, Debbie Raynaud's, Debbie Lymphedema. I've probably done a session, and if I haven't and you want me to do something, be sure to reach out and let me know. If you're watching this on a recorded basis, or you think of something after the fact because I've talked too much already, just tag me at Debbie with a Y. That way for sure I'll get a notification. If you just make a comment, sometimes I get so many notifications in Facebook in a day. I don't always see the notifications. So make sure if you want to catch my attention, you tag me at Debbie with a Y. There are still deals for the new year at Lifepro. So if, you know, another thing I should have mentioned at the beginning, but if you've been, you know, whining because you can't get a vibration plate because somebody told you have a contraindication, seek further clarity. That's what today was about. Contraindications are not contra shocks. I just knocked my coffee over. Thank goodness the lid was closed. Contraindications are not a Contra-Don't. They're an indication to seek clarity. So in the world of vibration plates and activity in general, because a vibration plate is just a therapeutic and activity tool that you can use, it's often more about modifying because of the contraindication, the blood clot, the broken knee, the spinal issues. There's always a way you can modify positions and tolerance to get benefit out of using this thing. You just need someone experienced that's worked with these things. So I'm happy to be your support via Lifepro. Search for those on the YouTube channel, and I will put a few links related to the discussion we've had today in here as well. Lindine says, yes, she has poor balance and all that you've said. It's common stuff. I've got parents and aunts, and I do home care on the side. Excuse me, it is so dry in here today. But yes, I do work with some aging seniors that have pretty much every chronic condition you can imagine. It's certainly on, all of them are on the contraindications, but I work with these people personally, and I've had, I'm going to brag about my Mary for a minute. Mary's not in my group, but Mary's got cardiovascular issues. She's had several severe falls, all kinds of neurological issues, all kinds of feet issues going on. And I'm very proud to say, just by using her vibration plate in a combination of seated and some standing exercises, she's got some really big issues going on with the spine and the neck. And it's not an unable to, but it is a fear thing. Mary and I have put 21 pounds back on her butt in the last 90 days. You know, many of us talk about weight loss, but sometimes as we age and become frail, our bone density and our muscle mass degrades just because we're not upright. We're not resisting gravity, which makes us and keeps us strong. We're not doing the function. And I want you guys to be as independent as you can. And a plate is just such a great way to maintain and improve those things. So if you are dealing with a situation where you've digressed and weight loss is important, but weight gain is also something we just don't talk enough about. It wasn't something that we were purposefully trying to do. It was just upon a checkup. You know, I kind of noticed holding her legs and her hips that, you know, I just thought it was more muscle definition that we had been accomplishing. But 21 pounds, I was pretty pleased in 90 days to see that she's got a little more cushion now. But the falls have also, I don't want to say anything because I feel like I jinxed myself, but we went for a month where there was no falls, but the consistency in using her plate was also in line with that. So even though you might be having a great day or think you have too much time, 2 to 3 minutes for the maintenance and feel good stuff, especially if you're dealing with contraindications. So thank you for joining me. I'm going to shut my pie hole now and let you guys get on with your evening. Give me an hour or so. I will get some links back to you with some additional information. And I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow and Thursday night, same time, same place, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a great rest of your night. Don't work too hard. Thanks, guys, for joining me.